You've done the math 100 times in your head. You've got a number saved up, a rough plan, maybe a call with HR to talk about your last day. But here's the question that stops most people cold. If I asked you right now, out loud, are you actually ready to retire? Could you answer with real confidence? Not a hopeful guess, real confidence. Most people can't, and it's not because they haven't saved. It's because saving enough and being ready aren't the same thing. You can have 6 figures in your 401k and still be one bad healthcare year away from real stress. You can have a modest nest egg and still retire with total peace of mind if you've asked yourself the right questions first. So here's a quick gut check before we go further. Ask yourself right now, do you know specifically what your first Tuesday of retirement will actually look like? Not the fantasy version, the real one. Most people picture the beach. Almost nobody pictures the calendar. In this video, I'm walking you through 7 questions you need to answer honestly before you hand in that resignation letter. These aren't about how much you've saved. They're about whether your life, your money, and your plan actually line up. Answer these truthfully, and you'll walk into retirement steady instead of hoping for the best. Let's get into it.
Question 1. How much will you actually spend per month? Not what you hope, but what you'll really spend. Here's the trap. Most people plan retirement spending based on their current paycheck minus work expenses. No commute, no work clothes, done. But real retirement spending doesn't shrink evenly. Some categories drop, sure. Others go up, sometimes a lot. Travel, hobbies, helping adult kids, home repairs on a house you're now home in all day to notice needs work. Imagine a couple, let's call them Rita and Dave, both 61. They figured they'd need about $4,500 a month based on trimming their old budget. 2 years into retirement, they were closer to $6,200 a month, not from overspending, just from underestimating things like healthcare premiums, a new roof, and simply being home enough to spend more time doing things that cost money, like dining out and day trips. So, today, pull your last 3 months of bank and credit card statements and add up what you actually spend, not what you think you spend. That number is your real starting point, not a guess. Question 2. What happens to your income if the market drops 20% in your first 2 years of retirement? This is called sequence of returns risk, and it's one of the biggest threats retirees face, bigger than most people realize going in. Here's the simple version. Losing money early in retirement while you're also withdrawing from your accounts does far more damage than the exact same loss happening later because you're pulling money out of a shrinking pile at the worst possible time. Picture someone retiring in a year the market drops sharply, right as they start taking withdrawals. Even if the market fully recovers a few years later, the early withdrawals during the dip mean they never get to benefit from that recovery on the money they already took out. 2 people with identical savings and identical average returns can end up in very different places purely based on timing. So here's your action step. Ask yourself if you have a cushion, cash, or safer investments that could cover 1 to 2 years of expenses without touching your investment accounts during a downturn. If you don't know the answer, that's worth figuring out before you set a retirement date, not after. If either of these numbers surprised you, drop a comment with your current age. I want to see how many of us are working through this at the same stage.
Question 3. Have you actually priced out healthcare, including the gap before Medicare? If you're retiring before 65, this one matters enormously. Medicare doesn't start until 65, which means if you retire at, say, 62, you could be paying for private health insurance out of pocket for 3 full years. That gap can easily run $800 to $1,500 a month per person, depending on your state and health. And that's before you factor in deductibles or unexpected procedures. Even after 65, Medicare isn't free. Between premiums, supplemental coverage, and out-of-pocket costs, many financial planners estimate a healthy 65-year-old couple should plan for well over $200,000 in healthcare costs across a typical retirement. That's not a scare number, that's a planning number. So, pause for a second and actually check. If you're retiring before 65, do you know what a private health plan costs in your state right now? If you're not sure, that's a phone call or a quick online quote worth getting this week before it's a surprise instead of a plan. Question 4. Do you know exactly when you'll claim Social Security and why? This is one of the most consequential and most rushed decisions in retirement. You can claim as early as 62, but your monthly benefit is permanently reduced compared to waiting until your full retirement age, typically 66 to 67. Wait all the way until 70, and your benefit can be roughly 24 to 32% higher than at full retirement age, depending on your birth year. Here's a real-life example. Tom, 63, was ready to claim early because it's my money, I earned it. Fair point. But when he actually ran the numbers with an advisor, he realized that because his wife had a much smaller work history, delaying his claim by even 3 years would significantly increase her survivor benefit down the road, money that would matter more to her later than it did to him right now. That's not a mistake everyone makes, but it's a decision most people make without ever asking the follow-up question. So, your action step, before you claim, ask specifically how your claiming age affects not just your check, but your spouse's, including survivor benefits. That one conversation can shift a decision worth tens of thousands of dollars over a lifetime. Quick reminder as we go, everyone's situation is different, so treat these numbers as a starting point for your own research and conversations, not personal advice.
Question 5. What will you actually do with your time? Specifically, not vaguely. Relax and travel a bit is not a plan, it's a mood. Studies on retirement satisfaction consistently point to purpose and structure as bigger predictors of happiness than the size of your savings account. People who thrive tend to know their answer to what does a normal Wednesday look like before day one, not scramble to figure it out 3 months in. So today, actually sketch out a rough weekly rhythm. Not a rigid schedule, just enough structure that you're not staring at the calendar wondering what's next. Question 6. Have you talked with your spouse or partner about what retirement actually looks like day to day? Money conversations get all the attention, but how much time do we want to spend together versus apart causes just as much friction. One partner picturing constant togetherness and the other picturing separate routines is a recipe for tension nobody saw coming. Your action step, sit down this week and actually ask each other out loud what a typical day looks like in your head. You might be surprised how different those pictures are. Question 7. If something happened to you tomorrow, is your plan actually written down somewhere your family can find it? Account numbers, beneficiary designations, a general sense of your withdrawal strategy? If it only lives in your head, it's not really a plan, it's a risk. So this week, put the basics in one document: account locations, advisor contact info, and your general approach. It takes an afternoon, and it removes an enormous burden from the people you love. Here's the short version. Retirement readiness isn't just a number. It's your spending reality, your risk cushion, your healthcare gap, your Social Security timing, your day-to-day purpose, your relationship alignment, and your plan being visible to others. Answer these 7 honestly, and you're not just retiring, you're retiring prepared. If you want the exact step-by-step way to calculate your real retirement number, not a guess, an actual number, watch the video I've got linked next. And while you're at it, hit subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this series.